Welcome to the Mindset Mile podcast, the show that'll leave you empowered to take action towards becoming the turned up version of your already awesome self. I'm your host, Aisha Zaza, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. What is up, fam? Welcome back to the Mindset Mile podcast. This episode is brought to you by Upspace Fitness. Thank you to Upspace for allowing this episode to be possible. I want to ask, if you haven't yet, please, when you're done with this episode or even now, just pause it. If you could leave the show a rating and review on whichever platform you are listening to it on, that would mean the world to me. It's the smallest, easiest way that you could just say thank you to me for this podcast. It helps other people find the show. And that is my biggest mission. I want to serve as many people as possible with the Mindset Mile podcast. So if you could just do me a huge favor and leave a rating and review, that would just help the show out so much. And I would be forever grateful. This week, I want to dedicate an episode to meal prepping tips. We've been talking a lot about very motivational and inspirational things. And I feel like it's been kind of a while that I've given you some really practical tips and a how to do things that streamline your week and your success in creating better habits around food. So meal prep and making food are things that I genuinely love. And I do share about that sometimes on stories. And when I do, I always get a ton of questions or requests for more of that type of content. But I'm not trying to be a food blogger. So I just don't have the time to dedicate, a whole lot to it other than sharing what works for me and recipes that I'm making. So I want to share some tips here that can hopefully serve you in your meal prep journey and process. So I think, with stuff like this, I try not to keep this information to myself, even though it's very simple and second nature to me. If I can help make someone's life easier and, help you build towards the habits that you're working at, then that's what I want to talk about. So hopefully you find this helpful. I know food prep can be very daunting if you are not in that routine. So even though we have endless amounts of resources for recipe and inspiration, we still don't do it. Why? Right? I mean, tell me you don't have a million recipes saved on Pinterest or Instagram, or you follow accounts that, help with this, and maybe you take some of those tips, but they don't last very long, or you save a million of these tips and have only implemented maybe one of them, whatever the thing is for you. This is why. An overwhelmed or confused mind says no. It's not a matter of not having the tools. It's that we haven't yet created the habit. So I want to make this super simple for you. So if you're someone who wants to start meal prepping or already does it but can't seem to stick with it, then I hope these tips will help you streamline a system to get you going and to stay going. So for one, keep it simple. Everything on Instagram, all the food accounts that I follow, I would be lying if I said every time I scrolled past one of them, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make this. I save it to my food folder and then it pretty much goes there to die. I've made a handful of recipes that I've saved, but I'm not trying something new every single time I go to cook dinner or make lunch or whatever it is. I come back to the same few meals generally. So if you're starting out or are wanting to become consistent with meal prep, don't get overzealous. It's going to overwhelm you, and an overwhelmed mind shuts down. Keep most meals to a protein, a fat, and a carb. If you are not sure on what proteins are and what fats are and what is considered carbs, I want you to look that up. This isn't an explanation of macros per se. In general, this is what a typical meal can look like with a portion of protein, fat, and carbs. It could be chicken and air fryer zucchini and sweet potato, or steak, grilled veggies, and rice, or salmon, roasted cauliflower, and quinoa. And depending on how you make those things, there could be some olive oil for fats, or you can add a little bit of avocado. So then once every other week, try something new. Try one of those recipes that you've saved that went to the folder to die and resurrect it from the dead. It's not going to die. I like to keep things simple, but I also think food is fun and I enjoy cooking. So I like to personally try new things every once in a while. If you don't enjoy cooking and if you're overwhelmed by new recipes, then skip this step and stick with the simple ones. But if you're like me and you like to try something new every once in a while, you can then decide if it's something that you want to add to your repertoire and make it more regularly. That is how I tend to find the things that I make, is I try it once and then I decide if it's something that would be easy enough for me to make, every couple of weeks in a big batch for me to food prep. So I like trying new foods for that reason. And then I also decide if it's something that I want to start making on the regular. So my second tip is take 15 minutes to pick the recipes that you want to make the following week. So someone once told me about the 6 Ps, and I can't forget them. The 6 Ps are: proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. So that applies when meal prepping as well. So if you fail to plan, then likely you can plan to fail. I like to take 10 to 15 minutes to write out what I'm going to make that week. So this is going to help account for all of your meals. What are you having for dinner Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that week that you can prep on Sunday? I suggest doing either one big prep for the week, or what works for me and what I like to do is doing 2 preps for the week. So usually I keep Sunday meal prep for the first half of the week, and then Wednesday or Thursday I prep for the next few days, and I usually account for us going out to dinner or getting takeout one night. So it doesn't need to be so strict and rigid, but if you like doing everything all at once, then you can do your entire week. You really have to choose what is up or what is best for you. But regardless, take a few minutes to sit down, go through your library of recipes, or, look at your week and what you want to make, and just make sure you are making lists for the grocery store and that you know exactly what food you're going to have each day. Want to know the most underrated form of self-care? Sleep. I am all about prioritizing sleep as a part of my self-care. And since we spend a third of our lives in bed sleeping, I love luxury bedding. Cozy Earth is my go-to brand when it comes to all things bedding, and I especially love their best-selling bamboo sheets. They're temperature regulating and incredibly soft. They're the first sheets I've used where I can feel a noticeable difference every time I get into bed. Snuggle up this Valentine's Day in Cozy Earth bamboo sheets. You can thank me later. Cozy Earth provided an exclusive offer specifically for my listeners, so you can enjoy 35% off your entire online order when you use code MindsetMile. Enjoy! I find that taking 10 to 15 minutes, spending that time dedicated to just mapping out the week and planning for it, it saves so much time so that when it is time to make your food, you're not spending time wondering what you're going to have for dinners and your lunches. And this is your opportunity to look through your Pinterest or Instagram folders and actually pick a couple saved recipes to make. It doesn't even need to be a full recipe, but maybe you want to find a new way to season your chicken or find a new air fryer recipe for your veggies. Just take the time the week before and get everything sorted out so you know exactly what you need and exactly what you're going to make when. Tip number 3 is have 2 to 3 go-to meals. You're going to want to have a few meals or recipes up your sleeve that you know well and don't need to think or prep much for. All weeks are not the same, and sometimes your time is more limited and you need something brainless and quick that gets the job done. A couple of my go-tos, for example, are we like to do a big grilled tri-tip, and at the same time, we usually grill a few chicken breasts. And then I dice up a bunch of veggies and put them in a grilling basket, so everything goes on the grill at once. And then I make a side of rice in the rice cooker. So Our protein, our veggies, and our rice are the prepped food that we have for the next couple days. Another go-to of mine is a spaghetti squash casserole. So you can pick whatever recipes or foods you know how to make without instruction, and you should feel super confident with making them. And this is going to shore up that you always have something to fall back on if you have an extra busy week, or if you're not feeling like being super creative, or you just don't know what to make. You always have 2 to 3 meals that you know how to make. So my next tip is prep, double, and freeze. I haven't always done this, but I've recently started to make double the amount I'd normally make, and then I freeze half. You're going to thank yourself later for this one. It takes little to no extra work and assures you always have a meal ready to go once it's thawed. So a few ideas of things that work great to make in batch and use half and then freeze the other half are sauces, stews, burger patties, meatballs, curries, stir fries, chili. I mean, honestly, almost anything. You really will thank yourself later doing the work once and reaping the benefits twice. So for this, you want to make sure that you have good Ziploc bags, or you might want to invest in a vacuum sealer. You can get a decent one on Amazon for under $50. It's up to you when you want to use these freezer meals, but I really try to make sure they are a last resort option, because there really is nothing worse than when your fridge is empty, it's too late to grocery shop, you're unmotivated, or you had a super busy weekend where you just cannot prep for the next couple days. Having freezer meals is just priceless. And then my 5th tip is get Tupperware to portion things out so you can grab food easily and go. It's a lot easier to portion everything out once than do it every day. So this is a pretty obvious time saver, but it's also super helpful if you are counting your macros or you're eyeballing your macros. It's a good way to portion out your protein, your fat, and your carbs. This makes food easy to transport and easy to eat on the go also, if that's what you need. And then also the aesthetic and maybe slightly OCD part of my brain likes when things look the same, pretty and neat. So I personally like to have the same type of Tupperware for certain things. So I just am a little bit of a believer, or maybe a lot of a believer, that when you look the part, it helps you feel more confident about what you're doing. So the same goes for little things like this. I like getting the tools that will make whatever I'm doing easier and make it feel like I have a streamlined system down. And to me, it's also a little bit motivating to get things that are meant to set you up for success. So sure, you can put your food in any old Tupperware or storage, and that absolutely does the job. This isn't to shame you if you have all unmatched Tupperware. I know how the lost lid Tupperware goes. You don't want to keep buying new Tupperware. I'm just giving you an example of how this is just an added bonus of how something small can make a big difference in how you feel about what you're doing. So those are my 5 tips. Keep it simple. Take 15 minutes the week before to plan your food and grocery store list. Have 2 to 3 go-to meals. Make double the amount of food and then batch and freeze half, and then get pre-portioned Tupperware so you only have to portion once and can grab and go. I hope that this served you. If it did, please tag me on social media, share this on your stories. You can find me on Instagram at Aisha Zaza, and I can't wait to spend next Monday with you. Until then, make it a great day.